All right, folks, we have a fantastic one for you today. It is a beautiful pork schnitzel with a roasted potato and a delicious cucumber salad, and obviously a absolutely wonderful garlic butter lemon sauce on the schnitzel. This is one of my favorite meals, one of my kids' favorite meals too. He just loves the pork schnitzel. I can't wait to get into this. Let's get it done. So these are the ingredients that we're going to need for our pork schnitzel and a cucumber salad that we're going to do. And I already have some potatoes going in the oven. They're a roasted potato, but we already have a recipe on the channel for that, so you can go back and check that out. So we have some pork tenderloin that we're going to pound out flat. I'm going to be cooking it in a ghee. If you want to make your own clarified butter, it's pretty simple. I just have some, so I'm going to use it up while I have it. So we have our breading station over here. I've just got some flour, which I salt and pepper. I've got a couple of eggs, again, salt and pepper. And I'm using panko breadcrumb, and I got some salt, pepper, and Parmigiano Reggiano cheese in there, grated. I know that's not normal, but I really like the extra little bit of salty flavor that it brings to the breading. On top of that, we're going to be doing a quick marinated cucumber salad. So it's just going to be cucumber, red onions, some vinegar, olive oil, and unfortunately, the grocery store did not have fresh dill, so I'm just going to be using this freeze-dried stuff. It's not as good, but it'll do in a pinch. For the sauce, for the schnitzel, I know most of the time you're just going to squeeze a lemon over top, but why not elevate that? So we're going to do like a butter wine lemon sauce for the schnitzel, and we'll also probably brush a little bit of this onto the potatoes when they come out of the oven as well. So normally you would definitely start out by breading the pork tenderloin. In this case, I'm going to start by cutting these cucumbers. I want them to sit in a little bit of a strainer so that they can get rid of some of that water that's naturally going to come out of those while they sit, while everything else is being made. That way we have less water in the salad and more room for extra goodness, flavor, that is. To start, we're going to cut up our cucumber. I've seen this done a few ways. I've seen it done with very thin slices. I've seen it done with thicker slices. I've seen it done with chunks, and I've also seen it done a smashed way where you can smash the cucumber and then cut it up. This time, we're just gonna go with a normal sort of slice thickness, about this much. It's maybe a 1/4 inch, somewhere around there. So we're just gonna slice up all our cucumbers and get them in that strainer there. If you're good with your knife skills and you wanna do more than one at a time, then just line them up like this. Take your time, you're at home, this isn't a race. That's about 4 cucumbers, mini cucumbers. You could use 1 large English cucumber or a field cucumber, which is an even bigger, thicker thing. I like these English cucumbers and these mini cucumbers. The skin is so thin that you can eat this and it's gonna taste great. With a field cucumber, you're gonna have to peel most of that off. So the red onion will just get cut up into our little bowl here. I don't need a lot. I'm not making a massive salad for a whole bunch of people. It's just a couple people here right now. I'm gonna cut my onion in half and then just make some nice thin cuts of onion. We're looking for something like this for a salad. Very, very thin. Now, if you're not confident with your knife or you just don't like slicing things very thin with it, you could always use a mandolin. All right, give everything a little bit of a wipe down and then we'll get ready for our pork tenderloin. We got to pound that meat out. So here is our tenderloin. Definitely you could just cut this into pieces and pound it out, but I'm going to cut this fat off. And there's a little bit of silver skin under here that I'm also going to get rid of at the same time. And to do that, you just want to run your knife along the fat and just try and cut that fat off while leaving the meat on. So after you get your pork cleaned up, we're just going to trim these little bits off, cut that little piece of tail off. So I'm left with a pretty much uniform size. I'm just going to make little cuts like this, try and get them about the same size. And these we're gonna pound out. So when you're pounding your meat, it's easiest if you put some plastic wrap down and then some plastic wrap over top. I'm just gonna get the cutting board a little bit wet. That way when I pull out the plastic wrap and the whole roll, it's gonna stick to the cutting board, just like that. Now I can just take a piece of pork, another piece of wrap, and then I'm just gonna pound the pork out nice and thin. You want this really thin. Now, I also want to season these, so I'm just going to season them as I pound them out. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. This is very important. You don't want to skip this step. If you don't season the meat before you bread it, it's probably not going to have any flavor at all. And depending on what size of schnitzel you want, you could have cut these bigger. They would have pounded out to much larger pieces. Now, another way, folks, you could do this if you, I don't know, for some reason don't have plastic wrap or prefer it a different way, you could get like a freezer bag and you could just open it up. You could put your pork inside the freezer bag and you could hit it like that. It's basically the same thing. Now, personally, this time I decided to use pork. I mean, it's my favorite way to make schnitzel. If you're gonna make Wiener Schnitzel, which is the original one, you have to use veal. When you're doing that, you're gonna wanna make sure that you pound it out just as thin, if not maybe a little bit thinner, because veal is a tougher cut of meat, and if you don't pound it out very thin, it's not gonna be very easy to chew. All right, we got our pork. We're gonna bring that over here. So we just need to whip up the eggs a little bit, and we have our panko, so anytime you're breading something, you're gonna wanna put it in the flour first. Make sure it coats everywhere, shake it off. That's gonna help your egg stick to this. Into the egg, then into the breadcrumb. Make sure it gets coated well, but when you're done, you definitely wanna shake off all the breadcrumb that doesn't want to be there. Otherwise, it's just gonna fall off in your pan and it's just gonna burn at the bottom of the pan when you're trying to cook these. So flour, egg. I'm not trying to force the breadcrumb into it. I'm just trying to pat it a little bit, so make sure to get as much breadcrumb as it's going to hold. Now, another thing, guys, you're probably saying to yourself right now is this breadcrumb is very coarse for a schnitzel, and I agree. Most of the time you would probably put this through a food processor, this panko, and get a little finer, but personally I like it like this. It tends to stay a little crunchier while after you're done frying it. My potatoes have about another half hour of cooking still. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to finish making my salad. I'm just gonna stick these in the fridge a little bit and just help them set up a little bit. Just gonna check on the potatoes. If you haven't tried these potatoes, folks, I can't recommend them enough. It is the best roasted potato you're ever gonna have. Okay, so we have our pan here. We'll get that heating up. We have our ghee ready for that. After we're done frying that, we'll make our sauce. So we're just gonna put our cucumber in our bowl with our onion. This is just a marinated cucumber salad. If I were gonna do the creamy version, I would use sour cream in here as well, which I do love sour cream, but I just feel like something a little lighter. So red onion, cucumber, got a couple tablespoons of vinegar here, salt, pepper, olive oil, and just a little bit of sugar. And we're just gonna put maybe probably about a teaspoon of sugar. Don't put too much at first. Give it a mix. Like we said, this is a marinated coleslaw, so we're just gonna let this sit now and let all those flavors combine. And then we'll give it a taste and adjust if we need to then. Just gonna get some of this ghee into our pan. You want enough that the pork is gonna basically be swimming in the fat, but not deep fried, you know what I mean? So it's gonna be enough for it to sit above the pan a little, but not enough to be completely covered. And we're just gonna let that heat up. Now, you definitely want that to be hot. You don't want to put your schnitzel in a cold fat of whatever fat you're using to cook it, so it's just gonna soak that in and be really greasy and gross. You need that to be hot so that it just instantly fries those breadcrumbs. So a way you can check is just by a little bit of water. If it does that, it's definitely hot enough to cook your food. Maybe use a little bit less water. All right, by the time these are done cooking and getting both sides brown, because we pounded that pork out so thin, it's definitely gonna be cooked all the way through. If it's a little bit under and pink, then even better. Oh, mittens. So as you can see, if you look at your schnitzel, you can see the edges are brown. So we're just definitely gonna go check that, and we're gonna flip it. Now, you don't have to get it perfect before you flip it. It's not like that one flip rule is really relevant to any kind of meat or anything for that matter. You don't need to do it with steak. You don't need to do it with this. Jerk. But these are looking absolutely delicious. Tiny touch lower on the heat, but this is perfect. This is great. So we'll get these out. Again, just shake off that breadcrumb that isn't gonna stick there. Otherwise it comes off in the bottom of the pan there and it's just gonna burn, especially if you're cooking, like if you're doing a bunch of these. If I cut up both pork tenderloins, by the time I got through all of those, there'd be a lot of burnt stuff on the bottom. It's kind of yucky. And then you get that smell of burnt when you're cooking. Nobody wants to smell that. Nobody wants to smell that. Just gonna chop up some garlic for sauce. Sure, you've seen it a million times. Cut off an end, just kind of give it a smashy-pashy. The peel comes right off. All right, we got our pan back on the heat. We'll just let that heat up a little bit so we can make our sauce. And folks, I've recently learned something that I bought into, like most people probably did, and that is if you mix butter with oil, it makes it so the butter doesn't burn. That is false. No matter what, the milk solids in the butter will burn. So we're just gonna turn the temperature down enough that it won't burn, but we can still fry some garlic and make some delicious sauce. So we got butter, yummy, yummy butter, and garlic. And if you want, you could put some shallots in there, shallots. So we're just gonna cook our garlic and our butter until we can basically start smelling it, and I can smell it really well right now. Oh, it smells really good. So we are fragrant. So now we're going to go in with our wine, maybe 3/4 of a cup, and we're just gonna throw in some of our lemon juice, about 1/2 cup, and we're gonna let that reduce for a little while. And we'll give it a taste and we'll see if we need more lemon or, well, that should be enough wine, but more lemon or not. Lemon or butter. Okay, well, we got our super crispy potatoes in here. I'm just gonna put some of that sauce on here and give it a toss when it's done, but I did forget the old dill. Normally, if I was gonna use fresh dill, I'd have a nice clump, I'd chop it up. But with dried dill, you don't want as much. It's a little bit heavier in flavor, but we still wanna be able to taste it. So I don't know, that was maybe a good heaping teaspoon. Okay, so folks, our wine and lemon juice is definitely reduced quite a bit. This is quite a bit thick. We're just gonna throw some of that lemon zest in there. Give it a little bit stir. We're just gonna give this a little bit of a taste. If there's too much lemon, just add a little bit of butter. If there's not enough lemon, just add a little bit of lemon. That's very lemony. That's very lemony. We're just gonna throw in a tiny bit of butter here, and that'll cut that lemony taste a little bit. It's good though, it's good. It's gonna be fantastic on the schnitzel. I don't wanna take away too much of that lemon flavor. Maybe a touch more wine just because I wanna thin it out a little bit. So we're just gonna put a little bit of that on our potato. All right, so we can go ahead and we can start plating. So we have our beautiful schnitzels. So we'll get our potatoes in there. We're just gonna put the schnitzel on there, a little bit of salad, and then just a nice light drizzle of that delicious lemon garlic butter and a little twist of lemon right up here. And there we have it. Pork schnitzel, a roasted potato, and a very nice light cucumber salad. It's absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to dig into this. Let's do it.